Authenticity is more than a buzzword, it's a brave act of self-declaration in a world that often rewards conformity. To be authentic means to show up fully as we are without masks, pretenses, or apologies. It's about standing rooted in our core values and being true to the story that shapes us, even when that story feels messy, complicated, or incomplete. Authenticity does not demand perfection, it asks for honesty. It invites us to peel back the layers of who we think we need to be, and instead reveal who we actually are. Yet being authentic isn't about broadcasting every thought or feeling without regard to others. It is about living with integrity, where our actions align with our beliefs and words. It requires recognizing the parts of ourselves that we may have kept hidden out of fear of judgment, of rejection, or of being misunderstood and daring to let those parts see the light of day. Authenticity calls for self-awareness, a practice of regularly checking in with ourselves to ensure that we're living, speaking, and loving from a place that honors our truth. When we choose to be authentic, we acknowledge our imperfections. We become comfortable with the fact that we don't have to have all the answers or always get it right. This humility doesn't make us weak, it makes us real. And being real is powerful. It creates a ripple effect, giving others permission to shed their own masks and show up as they truly are. It turns relationships from transactional connections into spaces where trust, empathy, and genuine understanding flourish. However, there is risk involved. Authenticity can be met with criticism and discomfort, not just from the world around us, but also from within ourselves. We must confront those voices that whisper, "You're too much" or "You're not enough." Choosing to silence those voices and instead speak from our inner truth means choosing courage over comfort. It means giving ourselves the grace to be seen, flaws and all. Living authentically does not isolate us, it grounds us in a life of purpose. It brings clarity to our decisions and creates a sense of wholeness. We become less defined by the roles others expect us to play and more anchored by the person we are becoming. We stand firm in our identity not with arrogance, but with a quiet confidence that grows from knowing that we have shown up, truly and fully. When we refuse to negotiate who we are, we find freedom. It's a freedom that allows us to live with our heads high, hearts open, and spirits unburdened by the weight of fitting in. This is the essence of authenticity, showing up as our whole selves, no matter what, because we know there is no price worth trading for the beauty of being real. The cost of compromise is a silent thief, often creeping into our lives unnoticed, yet its impact can be profoundly felt. Compromise of who we are may begin subtly, a shift in how we speak, a laugh withheld, a belief softened to avoid judgment or disapproval. It may look like changing ourselves to fit into relationships, workplaces, or social circles that don't honor our true nature. While compromise in healthy forms can build bridges, when it comes at the cost of our integrity and authenticity, it tears us apart from within. Every time we negotiate our values or stifle our voice to please others, a small part of us feels the betrayal. We may find ourselves plagued with inner conflict, as if two versions of us are at odds: the person we pretend to be for acceptance and the person yearning to be fully seen. Over time, this dissonance can become exhausting. It creates a heaviness, a sense that we are living an act instead of experiencing life as it was meant to be lived openly and genuinely. The weight of compromise may manifest as stress, anxiety, or even self-doubt, because deep down we know we are not showing up authentically. When we compromise ourselves too often, we risk losing our sense of identity. We forget what it means to truly stand for something. Instead of acting from our own convictions, we react based on what others expect. This erodes self-trust. How can we believe in our choices when those choices are so frequently bent to meet someone else's expectations? The longer we live this way, the more we may drift away from our purpose and from a path that brings meaning to our lives. Compromising who we are can strip us of our own dreams, replacing them with goals dictated by those around us. Relationships built on the foundation of such compromise become fragile, lacking the depth that comes with genuine connection. When we hold back our true selves, we rob others of the opportunity to know us fully. Worse, we deprive ourselves of the chance to be loved and respected for who we are. This creates a vicious cycle. The more we hide, the more we doubt whether we'd be accepted if people knew our real selves. And so we continue to hide, masking the discomfort with superficial connections. The cost of compromise extends beyond our personal lives. It can hinder our professional growth too. Suppressing our creativity, diminishing our voices, and staying silent when we have something valuable to contribute ultimately limits our potential. We become stagnant, fearful of breaking the mold, even when innovation and authenticity are precisely what's needed. In the pursuit of fitting in or avoiding confrontation, we sacrifice our unique gifts and perspectives. The price of compromising who we are can even touch our physical health. The stress of living a divided self may lead to chronic fatigue, sleepless nights, or a body that physically mirrors the strain our spirit feels. Over time, unresolved stress becomes the breeding ground for burnout and illness. It's a reminder from within that something needs to change, a call to end the negotiations with ourselves and begin living from a place of authenticity. Ultimately, the cost of compromising who we are is a slow erosion of the life we were meant to lead. It diminishes our potential and leaves us yearning for a freedom that can only come from showing up wholly as ourselves. To reclaim that freedom, we must recognize and refuse to pay this price any longer. Only then can we find the courage to say, no more hiding, no more suppressing, no more compromising our truth. The reward is a life lived boldly and unapologetically, a life that honors our worth and celebrates who we truly are. Strength in vulnerability is often misunderstood. Many of us have been conditioned to equate strength with invulnerability with stoicism, resilience that knows no cracks, and a refusal to show any signs of weakness. Yet true strength isn't found in armor, it's found when we take off that armor and step into the world exactly as we are, imperfections and all. Vulnerability is the willingness to be seen, to show up even when there are no guarantees, and to risk being hurt or misunderstood in the process. It is the raw, unfiltered expression of our humanity, and therein lies its power. Being vulnerable is an act of courage, not a sign of weakness. It means daring to express our fears, to admit when we're struggling, and to share parts of ourselves that we'd rather hide. It involves saying, I don't know, or I need help, or this hurts. In doing so, we make space for genuine connection because vulnerability invites others to step into their own humanity too. When we drop the mask of perfection, we give others permission to do the same, creating a culture where real conversations, empathy, and mutual understanding thrive. The strength found in vulnerability is transformative because it makes us resilient in a deeply authentic way. Instead of pretending to be unbreakable, we learn to embrace our wounds and imperfections, finding the courage to move forward even when we feel exposed. Vulnerability shows us that true resilience isn't about avoiding pain or failure, but about acknowledging it, learning from it, and continuing to stand. When we open up about our struggles and fears, we create a foundation built on truth, one that can weather life's inevitable storms. Paradoxically, vulnerability also makes us braver. It enables us to step into uncertain spaces, to take risks, and to reach for things that matter most to us, even when the outcome is uncertain. Whether it's confessing love, pursuing a dream, or speaking up against injustice, these acts demand vulnerability. They require us to be willing to fail, to be criticized, or even to be hurt. But without this willingness, without this exposure, we stay small. We live in a cage of self-preservation, never truly tasting the fullness of what life has to offer. Vulnerability is not without its challenges. There is always the risk of rejection, judgment, or betrayal. When we open ourselves up, we may feel exposed and raw. However, the alternative, living a life armored against pain, comes with a greater cost. It isolates us. It keeps us from the deep, meaningful relationships that make life worth living. It prevents us from growing because growth inherently involves discomfort, challenge, and being stretched beyond what feels safe. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we discover that strength and tenderness can coexist. We learn that it's okay to cry, to feel deeply, to care, and to express that care openly. Vulnerability allows us to be better leaders, partners, friends, and human beings. It builds bridges where once there were walls and brings light into the places we thought we had to keep hidden in darkness. In showing our true selves and owning our stories, no matter how messy or imperfect, we find a strength that doesn't need to prove itself, it simply is. Vulnerability also deepens our relationship with ourselves. When we refuse to hide or shrink, we begin to see our own worth more clearly. We learn to accept and love ourselves as we are, not as we think we should be. And in this acceptance, we find freedom, a freedom that comes from no longer living to please others or seeking their approval. We become comfortable with who we are, knowing that showing up in our truth is the greatest act of strength we can offer ourselves in the world. Ultimately, there is immense power in standing in our vulnerability. It makes us resilient, authentic, courageous, and deeply connected. It is not a weakness, but a fierce and brave choice to live wholeheartedly. To be vulnerable is to stand in our truth, knowing that our worth is not defined by others' reactions, but by our willingness to be seen as we are. That is the strength that changes lives, ours and everyone we touch. Establishing boundaries is an essential act of self-respect and self-care. Boundaries define where we end and another person begins. They demarcate what behavior we will accept, what we value, and how we prioritize our well-being. Setting boundaries can be challenging, particularly when we've been conditioned to believe that saying no is selfish or that our worth is tied to others' approval. However, healthy boundaries are not about building walls, but creating space for authentic, respectful interactions, both with others and ourselves. To establish boundaries, we must first understand our own needs and values. This requires self-awareness and a commitment to honoring what truly matters to us. When we lack boundaries, we may find ourselves overcommitted, overwhelmed, or taken advantage of. We give so much that there's nothing left for ourselves, leaving us exhausted, resentful, or disconnected from our true selves. Boundaries act as guardrails, keeping us aligned with our purpose and preventing us from giving more than we can afford emotionally, mentally, and physically. Establishing boundaries is not about controlling others, it's about communicating what is acceptable for us. It involves expressing our needs clearly and asserting our right to be treated with respect. This can feel uncomfortable, especially if we've been people pleasers or have feared conflict. But setting boundaries is an act of courage, a declaration that we are worthy of respect and that our time, energy, and feelings matter. It's about saying, this is who I am, and I deserve to be treated accordingly. The people who respect our boundaries honor our authenticity, those who don't reveal their own limitations. One of the most powerful aspects of boundaries is their role in protecting our emotional energy. We cannot be everything to everyone. By saying no to what drains or diminishes us, we create room to say yes to what nurtures and uplifts us. This isn't about being unkind, it's about preserving our capacity to be present, joyful, and fulfilled. When we set boundaries, we give ourselves permission to prioritize our own needs and well-being, which ultimately makes us more available for meaningful connection and contribution. Setting boundaries also means being willing to let go of relationships or dynamics that consistently violate our limits. This can be painful. We may face resistance, criticism, or guilt from those who have grown accustomed to us compromising ourselves. But by standing firm, we teach others how we deserve to be treated and model self-respect. Boundaries are not about punishment, they're about self-protection. They send a clear message that we will no longer tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or any form of harm. This strengthens our self-esteem and reinforces our belief that we are worthy of respect. Healthy boundaries are rooted in empathy and mutual respect. It's not about rigidly enforcing our will, but engaging in honest dialogue about what each party needs. It involves listening as much as it does asserting. Effective boundary setting creates space for both parties to express themselves while honoring each other's limits. This strengthens relationships, allowing them to be built on trust, openness, and respect instead of resentment or suppressed feelings. At their core, boundaries help us maintain integrity. They keep us accountable to ourselves. When we align our actions and choices with our values, we build a life that reflects who we are at our best. We avoid the trap of compromising our truth for others' expectations and instead live authentically. Boundaries also allow us to learn and grow, as they require us to be honest about what we can handle and where we need to draw lines. In this way, boundaries help us cultivate self-respect, resilience, and deeper connections with those who truly see and honor us. There is immense power in knowing when to say yes and when to say no. Establishing boundaries is an act of self-love. It is a gift to ourselves, one that reminds us we are deserving of safety, respect, and dignity. By setting and upholding boundaries, we create a life where we are free to be our full selves authentically, unapologetically, and powerfully present. The power of self-compassion lies in its ability to transform the way we relate to ourselves in moments of failure, struggle, and pain. At its core, self-compassion is about extending the same kindness and an understanding to ourselves that we would offer to someone we deeply care about. It invites us to treat ourselves with gentleness instead of harsh criticism, to hold space for our imperfections without shame, and to accept our humanity without conditions. It is not about indulging in self-pity or letting ourselves off the hook for mistakes, but about recognizing that we are worthy of love, respect, and patience, especially in our lowest moments. Practicing self-compassion begins with mindfulness, the ability to observe our thoughts and feelings without becoming consumed by them or judging ourselves for having them. When we make a mistake, our inner critic often rushes in with blame and harsh words. Self-compassion interrupts this cycle. It allows us to pause, take a breath, and acknowledge our pain with empathy. This mindful awareness reminds us that our struggles and shortcomings are part of being human. We all experience failure, disappointment, and moments of insecurity. By embracing our common humanity, we realize that we are not alone in our suffering, and this awareness can be deeply comforting. Self-compassion also means learning to speak to ourselves with kindness. Too often, our self-talk is cruel and unforgiving language we would never use with a friend. The words we tell ourselves shape our reality. When we replace self-criticism with words of encouragement and understanding, we create a space where growth becomes possible. Imagine telling yourself, I made a mistake, but that doesn't define my worth, instead of, I'm such a failure. This shift in narrative changes everything. It turns moments of defeat into opportunities for growth and learning. One of the profound gifts of self-compassion is its ability to foster resilience. When we respond to our pain with kindness, we build inner strength. We become better equipped to navigate life's challenges because we know we can rely on our own support. Self-compassion doesn't shield us from hardship, but it softens the blow and helps us stand back up when we fall. It allows us to approach difficulties with courage and perspective, knowing that we have the inner resources to cope. Practicing self-compassion does not mean avoiding accountability. It is not about excusing harmful behavior or avoiding difficult truths. Instead, it involves taking responsibility with a kind heart. When we acknowledge our mistakes with compassion, we are more likely to learn from them and make amends. Self-compassion provides a foundation for true growth and change because it is rooted in love, not fear. It motivates us to become better versions of ourselves, not out of shame or guilt, but out of a genuine desire to grow. Another powerful aspect of self-compassion is how it deepens our connections with others. When we are gentle with ourselves, we are more capable of extending empathy and understanding to those around us. We become less judgmental, more patient, and more attuned to the struggles of others. By cultivating compassion for ourselves, we naturally cultivate compassion for others. This creates a ripple effect that enhances our relationships and contributes to a more compassionate world. Self-compassion is a radical act in a world that often tells us to be hard on ourselves, to push through pain, and to achieve at any cost. Choosing to treat ourselves with kindness and care is a declaration that we are worthy of love and belonging just as we are. It reminds us that we do not need to be perfect to be deserving of respect. By embracing our flaws and nurturing ourselves through the ups and downs of life, we tap into a wellspring of strength and resilience. This is the power of self-compassion. It allows us to stand in our truth, hold ourselves gently, and move forward with courage and grace. Finding your community is about discovering the people and spaces where you can show up fully as yourself and feel truly seen, valued, and supported. It's about connecting with others who reflect and honor your authentic self, who challenge you to grow while offering acceptance and encouragement. Building a sense of belonging is more than just fitting into a group. It is about finding relationships that nourish you, where the connection is not based on superficial similarities, but on shared values, mutual respect, and a willingness to embrace each other's humanity. The journey to finding your community begins with understanding who you are and what you need. It requires introspection and self-awareness. When you know what matters most to you, whether it's shared interests, common experiences, or a desire for deeper connections, you can seek out relationships that align with those values. Too often we settle for relationships that leave us feeling unseen or misunderstood because we fear being alone. But true community doesn't demand that we compromise who we are, embraces us as we are. Being vulnerable is a key part of finding your community. To build authentic connections, we must be willing to share our stories, even the parts we'd rather keep hidden. When we let down our walls and allow others to see our true selves, our hopes, struggles, and imperfections, we create opportunities for genuine connection. Vulnerability invites others to reciprocate, fostering trust and closeness. It's in these moments of realness that we discover who truly belongs in our lives and who is willing to stand by us through thick and thin. Finding your community also means being willing to let go of spaces and people who do not honor your truth. It can be painful to walk away from relationships that no longer serve you or that require you to suppress who you are to fit in. But when we hold on to these connections out of fear or obligation, we deny ourselves the chance to find places where we can thrive. True belonging is not about settling, it's about finding those who celebrate you, not merely tolerate you. Walking away from what isn't right creates room for what is. Communities that nurture us do not always come preformed. Sometimes we must create the spaces we need. This may involve seeking out new groups, starting conversations, or initiating gatherings that reflect what we value. It can feel vulnerable to put ourselves out there, especially if we faced rejection or loneliness in the past. But each step toward building community is an act of courage. It sends a message that we believe we are worthy of connection and that we are willing to invest in relationships that matter. Within a true community, there is space for growth and challenge. Those who care about you will not only offer support, but also push you to be better. They will hold you accountable with love and respect, encouraging you to step out of your comfort zone while standing by your side. Real community doesn't shy away from difficult conversations, it leans into them with empathy and a commitment to mutual understanding. In this way, we are shaped and strengthened by the people around us. Finding your community also means being willing to offer what you seek. Connection is a two-way street, built on reciprocity and a willingness to give as much as we receive. To cultivate meaningful relationships, we must show up for others, offering support, kindness, and understanding. We must listen without judgment, be present in their moments of need, and celebrate their successes. By nurturing these bonds, we create an environment where everyone feels valued and empowered. The search for community can sometimes feel daunting, especially if past experiences have left us feeling isolated or misunderstood. But it's important to remember that the desire for connection is a fundamental human need. There is a place where you belong, a group of people who will see you for who you are and embrace you without condition. Finding them may take time, patience, and courage, but the journey is worth it. The sense of safety, acceptance, and love that comes from being part of a true community is a powerful source of resilience and joy. Ultimately, finding your community means finding a home for your heart, a space where you can be real, imperfect, and wholly yourself. It's about building connections that lift you up, hold you steady, and challenge you to be the best version of yourself. When we find these people, we are reminded that we are never truly alone. We are part of something bigger, something that celebrates who we are and who we are becoming. In community, we find strength, purpose, and the courage to keep showing up together. To embrace imperfection means recognizing that mistakes and failures are not marks of weakness, but vital parts of being alive. Every misstep and shortcoming offers a unique opportunity to learn and grow. When we shift our mindset away from seeing mistakes as something to be ashamed of and instead view them as stepping stones on our journey, we begin to cultivate self-compassion. We realize that our worth is not defined by how closely we align with some unattainable ideal. Instead, it is shaped by our willingness to learn, adapt, and keep moving forward, even when things don't go as planned. Imperfection is where real connection happens. When we put down the masks we wear to appear perfect, we allow others to see who we truly are. Vulnerability creates space for genuine connection, empathy, and trust. We all carry scars, fears, and moments of doubt. When we share these parts of ourselves, we remind each other that no one has it all figured out. Our imperfections are bridges, not barriers. They allow us to be human together, to relate to one another with authenticity, and to find comfort in the fact that we are not alone in our struggles. Embracing imperfection also allows us to let go of the constant pressure to measure up. When we cling to perfectionism, we become trapped in an endless cycle of comparison and self-judgment. We may feel like we are never good enough, always falling short of some arbitrary standard set by ourselves or society. This relentless pursuit of perfection often keeps us from taking risks, speaking up, or pursuing our passions. We become so afraid of failure or rejection that we hold ourselves back from living fully. When we embrace imperfection, we liberate ourselves from this fear. We understand that it is okay to try and fail, to stumble and get back up again. There is no shame in falling. The only failure is in refusing to rise. Creativity thrives in imperfection. When we give ourselves permission to be imperfect, we open the door to innovation, experimentation, and growth. Creativity is not about producing flawless work. It is about expressing ourselves honestly and authentically. Many of the most profound works of art, literature, and invention were born from mistakes and missteps. Embracing our imperfections allows us to take creative risks without fear of criticism or judgment. It reminds us that the process of creating, whether it's a piece of art, a business idea, or a meaningful relationship, is inherently messy and imperfect. And that is where its beauty lies. Learning to embrace imperfection also transforms our relationship with ourselves. Instead of harshly judging ourselves for every perceived flaw, we learn to treat ourselves with kindness and compassion. We become our own allies rather than our harshest critics. This self-compassion is crucial for building resilience and confidence. When we accept our imperfections, we stop seeking external validation to feel worthy. We realize that we are enough just as we are, and we can move through life with a sense of inner peace and self-assurance. Embracing imperfection does not mean ignoring areas where we can grow. It means acknowledging where we fall short without letting it define us. Growth and change are natural parts of life, but they don't have to come from a place of shame or self-criticism. When we approach self-improvement from a foundation of self-acceptance, we are more likely to make lasting changes. We are motivated by love and respect for ourselves, rather than by fear of not measuring up. In the end, embracing imperfection is about stepping into our truth. It is about owning every part of who we are, the messy, flawed, beautiful parts that make us unique. When we embrace our imperfections, we give ourselves permission to be fully human, and we inspire others to do the same. We begin to see beauty in the cracks and scars, strength in the broken places, and resilience in every stumble. In this space, we find freedom from unrealistic expectations and the courage to live authentically, unapologetically, and wholeheartedly. Embracing imperfection is about letting go of the need to appear flawless and instead choosing to honor our authentic, messy humanity. It means recognizing that mistakes and failures are not signs of weakness, but opportunities for growth and connection. When we drop the masks of perfection, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and real, creating deeper, more meaningful bonds with others. By cultivating self-compassion, we free ourselves from harsh self-judgment and the exhausting cycle of comparison. Embracing imperfection empowers creativity, resilience, and self-acceptance, enabling us to live with courage, authenticity, and a genuine sense of worthiness. In our imperfections, we find freedom, strength, and the beauty of being fully human.